Yeah, I know it kind of sounds like some people who may be listening, it may sound like we're un-American, like we're commies or something, but that's not true. Our government are commies. They're Bolsheviks. And you don't need to look any further than the Communist Manifesto. You don't need to look any further than the policies implemented the last 10 years, or the last 30 years, the last 100 years. And as I said, if it looks like a Zionist and it smells like a Zionist, it is a central banker. And central banks have caused every boom, every bust. They fund both sides of every war. And so we're not un-American. And I say God bless Americans.
And welcome to Against the Wall. I'm your host, JJink. This is Against the Wall at the UCY.TV media empire. Join the empire. Join the media empire known as UCY.TV. Spread the news. It's one of the best media platforms out there. Truly, radio with no commercials, with no begging for money, with no Jew gold, no filters, no frickin' squatty potties, none of that bullshit, no commercials, just straight poop here at UCY.TV. Tonight I have a friend of mine, Trevor Labonte, who's a brilliant, talented jazz musician from Austin, an ex-circus. Was it the circus, Trevor?
Yeah, actually in 1999 I played guitar in Ringling Brothers Circus for a year and a half. That was my first gig.
Well, we talked about that the first time you were on my show last year. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Trevor Labonte, who was at Freedom Palooza 4 and will be at Freedom Palooza 5. This is my fourth. I didn't MC the first one, and the guy who did really wasn't into it, didn't know any of the hosts, any of the speakers, or any of the content or the material that it was going to be. So I decided the next year that could be my contribution because I'm not a musician. I am not a scholar. Nobody comes to the event to see me. So that was what I could do in my small part. So I've been the MC and the host for the last 4 years. This year will be the fifth year, or this will be the fourth year, rather.
For the record, you're being modest. You did an incredible job last year, and I loved everything you said and really enjoyed it. And you're one of my favorite people to listen to, period.
Oh, Trev. You got me all blushing. Okay, so we had a great time last year. Some of the people that are coming back, brother Eli James coming back, and we'll have, our regulars, Jim Condit, Art Larson. Unfortunately, we won't have James Travkant there this year. Cindy Steele will be here with us this year. We are absolutely going to have our hemp, our resident, Sean House, Breathe the Seed from Hempsel's coming out with a presentation, maybe two. He was just wonderful. Doug Hawk, just another brilliant musician, plays sort of like jazzy piano. Man, I just love that guy. And then
I'm playing with him too.
And Karina. What do you guys got planned as far as musical performance this year?
Well, we're a duo act, and we play jazz songs, and Karina's been writing some new music that reflects truth and is sophisticated and a step forward for her, and I'm really excited about it. I've been training her how to play some pretty wild stuff on the guitar. And
oh yeah, she's a very talented guitarist too, actually.
Yeah, and she's a very good writer. She's much better writer than me, actually.
Hey, brother, can I just tell you how happy I am that you were blessed with a partner, with a mate, as talented and as passionate about some of the same things as you are.
Oh yeah, and
what a blessing.
You're happy about it. I'm the super lucky one. You kidding me, bro? Yeah, it's great.
Well, but just because I know that at one time, in the Austin area. Trevor was considered one of the most talented, and still is. I mean, I'm not saying you're not the most one of the most talented jazz musicians in Austin, but you've lost a lot of favor because of your political views, or more than just political views. But you know what I'm saying, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. We'll have plenty of time to go over that. So, so you guys are going to do some jazz, obviously. My friend Drew is going to come out. We're going to the guy with the Gretsch that was there last year. He'll be up, and it's going to be a great time. We're going to, where else are you going to have 3 days of camping and just, really just get to. I mean, these are people that are coming both to speak and to play because of we have a lot of several bands that are what would be considered protest bands, and so it's a chance to meet people that you're never really otherwise going to meet. And not only that, but I'm kind of proud to say that we're about the only platform that you're going to be able to hear live in public at an event like this. Some of the speakers we have, straight up.
Yeah, I was just going to say what an incredible contribution it is of both you and Paul and Tara, and for coming up with this idea. And no one does more that I know of anywhere to bring together people and discuss truth. And I just think it's just an amazing thing, and I'm really excited about it and can't wait to do it.
Yeah, that's Brother Paul. I can't take credit.
Well, you put a lot into it, though. You were there from the beginning. You set up.
You show up, I'll do the rest.
But being modest.
All you do is just be active and try to help, man. But no, I'm being a little bit modest. I sort of made it a point that if you come to our event, you're going to be, you're going to be taken care of. You're safe. You're in a friendly environment. Can't set your tent up, I'll frickin' do it for you. Hungry, I'll feed you. If you're thirsty, give you water. So it is, and basically, it's a party for the speakers and and the guests who spend the year battling the tribe. Because it's a rough battle because you're battling most of the freaking nocturnal population here in America and. Not around the world, because there's a lot of places where Israelis, where Zionists, where the Jewish idea, where the usury, and the whole Jewish revolutionary idea, which I like to tell everybody that want the revolution, man, the money for your revolution is going to come from Jews. The whole idea of revolution, really, in the modern times, in the last 2,000 years, is really. I mean, the Jews learned a lot from the Romans. They learned about usury. They learned about, really, and the way that they were defeated so many times by the Romans is exactly what they're doing to the Gazans, to the Palestinians now. They just besiege, cut off all the roads, cut off all the food, cut off all the water, and just wait for them to perish. Even if it takes 75 years, they will. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So earlier, all day today, actually, and I only involve myself sort of tacitly in these, especially like Facebook debates, because it's so sort of self-centered, everything that you do on Facebook, even when you're, you know what I mean. A lot of the text, it's not really. It's not there. It's hard to equate or articulate a warm feeling and still dissent from the main point or whatever. And but today, for the most part of the day, I've been hearing people trying to tell me, because it's obvious. You can't look at what Israel's doing right now. I mean, unless you're crazy and say it's not wrong. Even though you call Palestinians terrorists. So what, what do they do? And I'm at a loss sometimes, but they're trying to differentiate, it seems like all day people are trying to tell me that Zionism aren't Jews and they're completely, totally, utterly different things. And I'm like, look, they're not. all Jews. You just showed me. Here's Jews in America. It's not just Jews in America. Most of the, Christian freaking idiots here in America. Not all of them. The Catholics. That's what the real battle has been for 2,000 years with the Catholics and the Jews was, you know what I'm saying? The Catholics consider themselves back then Jews who accepted Christ, and the others, the other Jews, the synagogue of Satan, they recreated themselves.
Yeah, well, in that article, it makes it really clear that, well, it says that 94% of Jews are avowed Zionists. And this is coming from the Jerusalem Post, so they can't tell you that this is anti-Semitic propaganda. And I learned some interesting things from Wikipedia, of all places, Zionist controlled as it is. I just looked up what the deal is with Zionism and Orthodox Judaism, and just so we can set the record straight about what's actually going on and what this big supposed difference is between Zionism and Judaism. And what I found out from this Wikipedia page is that that all of the Jewish opposition to Zionism is actually opposition to secular Zionism. So the Haredi, which is the Orthodox Jews, are not opposed to Zionism. They are opposed to, they're afraid of this idea that secular nationalism would replace the Jewish faith and the observance of Jewish religion. And they have the view that it's forbidden to establish Jewish rule in the quote-unquote land of Israel, which is, of course, Greater Israel. And they make reference to Greater Israel right there.
Yeah, there's Greater Israel, and then there's the rest of the world, and we're all goyim. And I try to tell people, well, I mean, everybody says that Arabs hate freaking Jews and Jews hate Arabs. Jews don't even consider Arabs human.
Yeah, the Arabs and
think it's a matter of hate. It's like contempt. They're pests. They really do have a hatred for Christians, particularly white Christians or Catholics. But they don't like. But the whole world is are goyim. Everybody other than the Greater Israel, is Palestine to them.
Right, and it's important to point out that there's no such thing as non-supremacist Judaism. The essence of Jewish identity, which goes beyond Judaism, by the way, Wikipedia also says that 80% of Jews are secular Jews. So, but the thing that the Haredi are, and more the Netra Karta are afraid of, is that if they try to create a Jewish state before the coming of the Moshiach, aka Antichrist, that it will give humanity too much of a window into what Judaism really is, and the supremacist core of it, where you can see that these Jews behave horribly towards Palestinians, and they do indeed believe they're animals. And I'd like to throw in that the thing that got me woken up was my Jewish landlord about 4 or 5 years ago telling me that Arabs and Muslims were animals, but it was okay because the Israelis were exterminating them off of the face of the earth, and that within 100 years there would be no more. And lo and behold, I started researching that and seeing that it was basically the same thing that Netanyahu was saying, and in fact, it's totally in keeping with the Jewish religion. And as for the secular Zionists, that's even
writings found in the Talmud, and then
yeah. So isn't it interesting that 80% of Jews identify as secular, yet they're overwhelmingly pro-Israel? It says that 94% of Jews are avowed Zionists, whether they oppose secular Zionism or not. But it's being projected to the world as if Judaism or the Jewish people have a conscience about what they do. And I've been studying this problem for a long time, and that's not what's happening at all. They're
listen, real quick, Trevor, you can look. You can take your dogma and just put it aside when you're talking about this, because you're talking about you're not necessarily talking about people who even believe in God. All right. So just you got to look at it as though there were Jews, Jesus Christ from Christ from Nazareth or wherever he's from existed. He did exist, and these writings are true. And so they changed the entire the Jewish faith changed when Jews started converting to Christianity, believing that Christ was the Messiah, was the one they were waiting for. And they picked up all these ideas from the Romans because the Romans were actually pretty brutal too.
That's actually where Orthodox Judaism was born, is from the rejection of Christ. And what they're really rejecting isn't necessarily the Christian religion specifically, it's the universal morality that was espoused by Jesus. And also and we can get some insight into what happened with Judaism from Islam too, because Muslims believe that there was another religion that was like a good Judaism that was completely replaced and no longer exists.
The modern Judaism is actually by several years, by maybe 100 years younger than Christianity because it was rewritten.
Yeah.
When the Romans, after Masada, there was, about 60 years later, there were revolts, and they lost, and they were dispersed and scattered throughout the lands. But they were able to create a church and rewrite, and actually create these rabbinical writings, and that became the new Judaism with permission from the Romans, obviously. So at that point, everything that it meant to be Jewish became different. You know what I mean? Usury and capitalism and these things. That's why I've been really doing some research and insight into this. And while it's not, they're obviously, Christians or Catholics use Jews because usury was forbidden, by the church. So they would steal, the church and their corporations would just steal from the peasants, and they brought in Jews to loan them money.
That's right. The nobility used the Jews to rob the peasants to get their tax money, and then allowing Jews to practice their usury in the process.
Right. Same thing happened here in the United States in the 70s with the introduction of the credit card. So employers started paying at that point less and less. The dollar became worth less and less. So what did they do? Well, I mean, and it's about the same time that the Jewish banking interests sort of took control of the CIA, the POTUS, the Congress, through all their lobbies. They control all the media, somebody posted a picture the other day of what the hell was it? It was like a Muslim van driving through some shit, and they were like, what if this, through somewhere in America, what if this was a Christian van in Saudi Arabia? And I was like, well, it would probably get to where it was going, but if it was a Shia van in Saudi Arabia, they would probably blow it up and rape all the women and cut the babies out of their stomachs. So it's not even really a fair comparison.
Isn't it interesting that Saudi Arabia is always used as to make Islam look like a violent religion when Saudi Arabia is, first of all, an ally and an open alliance with Israel and the West, and is considered a Western proxy. That's our ally. That's the worst. All of these Gulf monarchies. This is how the Middle East politics are divided up. Is the bad guys are these corrupt Gulf monarchies that are run by Freemasons, and so Saudi Arabia, that regime was actually installed by the Rothschild family over 100 years ago to be proxies, and they're known to be crypto-Jewish. Their religion, Wahhabism, is totally rejected by.
Now they're even out in public saying, we've been having secret talks with Israel for some time about our enemies, Iran.
Of course, yeah. So it
they slaughter Yemenis.
Yeah, it should be all too obvious at this point that they're working together, and they're behind ISIS, and Jabhat al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda and all of these terrorist talk furies that are going around chopping off people's heads and causing all the chaos are, of course, are led by Western intelligence agencies, and their mission is to destroy the Israel's neighbors and Israel's opposition, so it can build this Eretz Israel, greater Jewish superstate on the ashes and rubble of the chaos that's sown. And you can see what's happening. I mean, there was the formation of Israel after the Second World War, and now they want this Third World War, where undoubtedly ISIS will destroy everything around Israel, and then at the end of the war, Israel will emerge as greater Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates, and will then establish world dominion in a one world Jewish government, which is the openly stated policy of the Israeli government. So there's really no wiggle room for anyone to tell us any,
and you can use nice words like Zionists and dual citizens. That's fine. But they call themselves Jews, so why don't you? I mean, I didn't used to, because I was like, they've made that word sound like nigger or spick or faggot, just really unpleasant and bad words. And so I don't use those words either, because I know that they're, they've been churned into disgusting words. But again, you can call you can't call a Jew. You can't use derogatory, but you can call a white, Christian or just a white person any old thing you want. And if you do, usually a Jew will say, hey, you can't call me that. But, Jews do definitely not consider themselves white. What the traditional on your application at work, when it says, you know what I'm saying? Are you white? Are you black? Are you Hispanic? They do not consider themselves white.
Yeah, there's no Jewish box on the census form.
They probably check other or something,
Yeah, I don't know what they do, but they try to stay undetected. But you raise an interesting point that I'd like to kind of elaborate on for a second. Something that I've learned from my good friend Gilad Atzman, who comes to Texas and plays jazz with me and supports my mission. And he's really got it figured out that the source of their power is the word, and he just defines Jewish power as the power to silence discussion of Jewish power. So it is all of their power is in this terminology and language, and they have the ability to police the discourse. They use their control of the media and even the alternative media, of course, to and certain websites like Jewish Voice for Peace or Electronic Intifada, Mondoweiss, Max Blumenthal, Democracy Now!, Noam Chomsky, Naomi Klein, Naomi Wolf. All of these people are definitely controlled opposition gatekeepers, because what they do is delete any comments that are about, let's say, Judaism being totally racist, anti-Gentile religion. They won't let you talk about two of the other pillars of the New World Order, which are the fact that Israel did 9/11, and that the official narrative of World War II is a complete
evil Nazis, evil Nazis. That's listen. If you actually watch the television, the Talmud vision,
the Electric Jew,
the filthy vision, the Electric Jew. That is funny, yeah. If you watch that, all the History channels, the Discovery Channel, the Military Channel, just it's everything in it. They put evil Nazi, Nazi evil Nazi this, and it's on daily. I mean, that's all they show.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, they're really afraid that the Gentiles are gonna see through all the programming, realizing that the Holocaust story, there's not any proof that any of that stuff ever happened, and then they'll be free to look into what I consider to be a very interesting topic, which is the 6 years of Hitler's chancellorship prior to the outbreak of the Second World War, which, by the way, was not started by Hitler. But I think that the thing that they're really trying to obscure and make taboo for people to understand is that the Germans were totally opposed to usury. It was punishable by death, and that they created a labor-backed currency called the labor treasury note, which made Germany's economy just like roar to life and skyrocket, while the rest of the world was enduring manufactured depressions and economic crash,
Well,
and
and
I
it
mean
was worse in
famines.
Germany because they were left sticky, broken, confused. After the end of the ceasing of hostilities, World War II never ended in a surrender, so it was actually just a cessation of hostilities. But they were left with this unpayable war debt and usury everywhere. And of course, what you just mentioned. But that didn't mean that the German people couldn't get loans for themselves in Germany at that time either.
They had
It just
low interest loans.
compounded daily, compounded annually, compounded weekly, compounded hourly.
Yeah, there is such a thing as ethical loans. The first thing to mention is that in Jewish banking, it's not actually a loan because they create the money out of thin air and then they give you a receipt or they put zeros in a computer in your bank account. They conjure the money, so it doesn't exist, and they're not lending you anything. Therefore, it's not a service, and they're not entitled to collect fees. But if you're loaned, actual money, and it's at a non-predatory, I mean, we all know what a predatory loan is, that you're, designed to have to pay way, way more than the amount. But Germany's policies towards its people,
Predatory loans are really they're structured so that you'll pay for a long time and then lose the entire loan and the property that the loan was granted for and all the money that you paid that you barely made. All them payments you barely made over the years, they become nothing. The property becomes theirs. So those predatory loans they're created knowing that you're going to pay on them as long as you can, and then you're going to lose it all, and then they'll just create another loan for that same
we
property.
we hear a lot about this German eugenics program too, and it's what it actually consisted of was the German government actually buying houses for couples that got married in the Third Reich, as
Right.
they would give you a low interest, a 0% loan to get a house, and then for each child that you had, the government paid off 25% of the house. So, the term eugenics actually means things that are good for the population, that make the population grow. And it's, dysgenics is what we have here. We don't have a eugenics program in America. This is the opposite. But in Germany, they did have a eugenics program, which it consisted of everything that promoted population growth and a healthy German society. So I could, list off lots and lots of things, but they, so if you had four children, your house was totally paid for by the German government. You did your job, and so that's the thing, that
Oh yeah,
that
that's something that would
earmarks,
never be in an American history book.
right? It earmarks the difference between a tyrannical government and one that supports the people is if the government is against population growth and is like, in America aborting 55 million babies and handing out condoms to everyone, and then whenever someone has a kid, there's all kinds of people that want to come out and chastise that person. Oh, why did you have a child? Why did you bring a child into this world? Don't you know about overpopulation, which is another myth?
The Vatican just came out and said there was about 6 billion too many people on planet Earth. I was like, who is this guy? Bill Gates?
Yeah, yeah, well,
Who is that? Margaret Sanger? Yes, they're all the same. They're all freaking Jews, and they all want us dead.
you said it.
They want us all dead. They're genetically modifying all our food, our insects, our fish, our fucking chickens. They got all that. They have their Noah's Ark in the Arctic in these doomsday vaults that they all have, all these freaking parasitical, satanic, baby raping sodomites.
Yeah, seed vaults in the Arctic, and yeah, they're preparing for this, fantasy that they have that they're going to exterminate the human race. But from my
It's not going
perspective,
to work.
it's been falling apart for a while, and really what marks the continental divide for me with regard to the Jewish New World Order is Vladimir Putin's opposition to it and his halting of the Zionists' desired wars in the Middle East. I mean, they're still waging war covertly. You know, make no mistake that there's maniacs running around pretending to be Muslims and killing people that are actually paid agents of.
They're just Islamic mercenaries, dude.
Yeah, they're not Islamic, and the other Muslims are
Not
saying these
even
guys are
Islamic. Yeah,
Muslims.
you're right. You're right. Right. And so what you were saying about Putin, and now it just comes out that, I mean, pretty much the entire Ukrainian government is Bolshevik. So,
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. See, that's the what they did in the Ukraine is in response to Putin stopping their war that they wanted against Syria. If you remember
yeah,
this
it was
this
Russia.
gas
I
attack,
that. Go
uh,
ahead.
this this gas attack at Ghouta, Syria, was being used as a pretext for NATO airstrikes, and Obama was actually on board with it. And then Putin and the Russians debunked this propaganda and proved that.
With it on American news, though, as though it was fact. They still say it all the time. You'll hear people say all the time, Assad gassed his own people. I'm like,
Yeah, no.
and
The other thing
no,
they
it
do is,
didn't. It was proven that it was these moderate rebels that shared our fucking values that John Kerry and that traitor McCain want to fucking, pardon my language, pardon my French, want us to all, you know, uh, uh, um, think our opposite, our real, Democrat. I mean, they're freaking murderous, and they always were. These terrorists did not share. I mean, they shared John McCain and John Kerry's values, but not mine.
yeah, I
Certainly
mean,
not
we
yours.
met with those guys, and they've been linked like hundreds of times with Western intelligence agencies and Mossad, and I think the world is really quickly waking up, and the Jews basically are getting caught with their pants down, and Putin really helped out the process when he removed their pretext for their intended invasion and slapped it down, and now you see the Saudis invading Yemen just out of they don't know what else to do because their real target is Iran, and Iran is backed by Russia. It's got S-300 defensive missile systems, so it can't be invaded. And what you're seeing is the big, I think, as of last, I think it was August 21st of last year, is a collapse of the New World Order, which means that all of the people that are out there countering the lies of the Jewish media have succeeded with a little help from Putin, of
Yeah,
course.
that's the way I see it, dude. Trev,
Cool.
I see it like this: is the whole thing is collapsing. They know it, and they just want they. I mean, out of just sheer hatred, out of just sheer degeneracy, they just want to cause as much mayhem and hurt as many people as they can because they hate us all. We're goyim.
That's true, but they're attacking us in a strategic order, and it has to do with who is aligned with Iran because
True.
Syria is a red line for Iran. You know, they won't
Yes,
let
yes.
this and this fuck with Syria, and and so that's why you see them
You
attacking.
can see them. Syria is still there, and it's simmering. And you can see that they're trying to figure out what to do, how to get there. This is part of the reason that the Saudi Arabian scum are, bombing mercilessly civilians in Yemen.
Yeah, and there's been reports in the last couple of days that were from basically Zionist disinformation sites like the mainstream media and
Call
Al
it.
Jazeera, and specifically what they were saying was that they're trying to make it sound like the president of Syria is about to collapse, which is a complete lie. The Syrian Arab Army and Hezbollah are making steady gains against these fake rebels. The problem is that there's a never-ending river of weapons and people that the Zionists and Zio Saudis can find and keep sending in there. But still, I mean, the Kalamoon Mountains are being liberated by Hezbollah, and But so yeah, they float these stories that just to hurt the morale of the resistance and to make the rebels more make the rebels think that they're going to
Same
win.
thing
And
they did in Lebanon. They thought they could go in there and handle Hezbollah, on the ground, and they realized soon that they couldn't. So on their way out, they just dropped, frickin' millions of cluster bombs, the gift that keeps on giving.
yeah, yeah, that was the second time that Hezbollah defeated an Israeli invasion of their homeland, and the first time it took 22 years to drive out the Israelis, and it was only done because of again Iran in 1979 started an anti-Zionist revolution, and the Ayatollah Khomeini sent 1,500 Iranian Revolutionary Guards to southern Lebanon to train the Shia militias in the area and created Hezbollah out of them, and then Hezbollah defeated this invasion and liberated their homeland, and then the Israelis invaded again in 2006, and this time they were defeated in only 33 days. So you can see the axis of resistance being fortified and becoming stronger and stronger, and you can see the Zionists in a panic because they can't deal with Iran and its slow and steady methodical buildup of this axis of resistance, which contains Syria, Hezbollah, and certain Palestinian forces.
Yeah, so they have to keep creating these excuses, i.e., Al Qaeda, i.e., Al Nusra, i.e., ISIS, to bomb from the air.
One of the biggest
exceptions, just to terrorize the local civilian population, because they know that you can't invade on the ground Iran. They couldn't do it. They couldn't win. And so just they just terrorize the local populations with airstrikes, with drone bombings, with, missiles.
Well, they couldn't even deal with Hezbollah. So what do you think? How do you think Israel would fare against Iran?
They wouldn't be able to.
Now they have Russia behind them, the Russian bear backing up the whole axis of resistance. I mean,
and Russia would probably, if Israel attacked Iran, Russia would stand back at first unless the United States joined them.
They wouldn't dare.
Because I think the Russians and the Syrians would have to say, and the Lebanese, then it's on, man. Then we're all going down. Because it's what they've been wanting. They think they can. They think they have their little Noah's Ark. And look, I say this also admitting that as whatever you want to call me, an American, I'm as guilty of my government's foreign policy as your average Jew is of the Zionist and Israeli foreign policy, whether it's tacitly supporting them or not. So I don't say that like I'm better or they're worse, but we're all being led by lunatics, whether it's here or abroad. And I want that to be clear because you're talking about even the Vatican now saying that, if 6 billion people died, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, unbelievable. Well, all of us contribute to this system, and but some of us are working hard to make up our lost time. I think of Ken O'Keefe, for example, who was in the Marines and now works tirelessly for the cause of truth, and
he's attacked endlessly.
Yeah, actually, there was an article. It was Jewish Voice for Peace Denver division called him. Strangely, both of us actually. I don't consider myself to be anywhere near what the stature of Ken O'Keefe, but they called us both neo-Nazis, and I think it's my line of thinking as of late has been to try to get people to pay attention to not what the Zionists are doing, but what what the Jewish progressive left is doing. Jewish Voice for Peace, and
dude, the entire left, the entire cultural Marxist left, that includes most of the truth industry, are just that. They're cultural Marxists. They're Bolsheviks. They're fucking Jew.
But due to their control of the language.
And I've come so far full circle, I couldn't believe any of this crap. Because I thought it was all about religion. It's not. None of this is really about Judaism. Isn't even a religion. Technically, if you look at it, it's really a usurious, capitalist um, justification. You know what I mean? For all of our like the entire criminal justice system that's been taken over. The entire Federal Reserve and the usury, all of this, and the entire left wing, the entire porn industry. I mean, look at how they have destroyed and changed. They've changed what it means to be an American. And I know there's a lot of people that are black and Mexican that, they're full of rage and hate too, and hate what I just said. But even 60 years ago, most black families had a mother and a father at home, whether they were poor or not. You know what I mean? They were not broken families. Now we're have all broken families. They've destroyed our entire culture. They've destroyed our middle class. They've destroyed our banking system. They've destroyed our universities.
Well, 80% of Jews have decided that Judaism is just dead weight to them, and what they've done, I think, is just take all of the supremacist aspects of Judaism, the chosenness, and they don't need the rest of it as long as they have their foundation for their moral relativism, their belief that Gentile lives don't have any sanctity. Then they don't need any of the other religious stuff, and they're just all out, basically like a predator class. And these secular Jews have done more damage than the religious ones. If you look at what happened in Bolshevik Russia, those are all said to be secular Jews, and whether they really were or not is no one knows but them. I personally think that they just try to distance themselves from Judaism because it's become known to be such a
they switched it with their sort of Marxism. Marx was he got his philosophy or his ideas from their Jewish ideas, this revolutionary idea, but there's always, I just don't know how to impress enough upon people that even our own little revolutions here in America are, especially the left wing ones, are completely funded and inspired.
Mm-hmm. And those are the most dangerous ones, though, and the most corrosive, because that is where they control the discourse, and these people know that you're never going to be able to solve a problem that you're not allowed to talk about or define. And so that's why I say I'm focusing all of my attention onto these people that I consider to be actually the protectors of Zionism, even though they wrap themselves in the Palestinian flag, like Jewish Voice for Peace. I mean, go to Jewish Voice for Peace Boston website, and their tagline is Israelis and Palestinians, two people, one future.
Yeah, so, dude, Palestine's been turned into an industry, just like frickin' Truth here in America has been turned into an industry. So Palestinian, free Palestine, free Palestine, free the Gazans. That's been turned into a money-making industry too. But yet they're not free. They get less free all the time.
Exactly, and they're engaged in this pseudo-liberationist discourse where they talk about ending the occupation, which all of their language now, bear in mind, these are the quote-unquote good Jews who quote-unquote oppose Zionism,
but they don't oppose the state of Israel.
They don't. You have to look at the fundamental problem in that region, which is the theft of Palestine. There's no justification for these people to stay there, and to me, it's no different than if someone kicks down your door and breaks into your house and then tries to negotiate with you for how much of it belongs to them. Like, none of it fucking belongs to them. And yet, even these groups, Jewish Voice for Peace and stuff, they're only speaking in terms of ending the occupation, which is solely talking about the West Bank. And what I've learned is that the Jewish progressive left views the end of the occupation as the final step in the process of legitimization of a Jewish state. So and you have George Soros.
What do you think, Trevor? Do you think they'd let? What if the Palestinians say we want to convert to Judaism? Would they share their country with them and call them all Israelis?
Fuck no.
No.
Kidding me?
So don't let them frickin' lunatic parasites fool you.
Yeah. So yeah, the ones that control the discourse are the left, and they're the ones that are that are causing all of the damage. And if you try to take your shots at Israel or Zionism and try to get to the heart of the matter, what's causing these blood-curdling genocides and this blatant disregard for human life, and you're going to find out that it's not only the Jewish religion, but the supremacist aspects of it that are carried over into secular Jewish identity, and you won't be allowed to talk about it, and it's because of these Orwellian motherfuckers that will erase your comments and won't let you expose the Holocaust or 9/11.
I mean, you disappear off that book all the time, dude. Jew book.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know.
Oh, yeah, they block me. I've been, I just recently finished up having all 3 of my accounts. I have to have 3 because I'm constantly getting blocked. I had all 3 of my accounts blocked for 30 days, and so it's horrible. And it's because of people like Jewish Voice for Peace and Miko Peled, who's another like fake anti-Zionist. And
it's because you present your idea in an articulate manner. You don't post swastikas and then images, dirty images. You use thought and you articulate an intelligent idea and a debate, I mean, some people, like me, for instance, but sometimes some of my Fed book conversations are kind of, I don't know, man. I just get tired of dealing with idiots, but you stay pretty professional about it.
A lot of people would disagree with you.
As far as you don't break down into calling people idiot and fuck you and you piece of shit, go get a job, you lunatic. And
I do that every day, and you and I are like the same. You're like my brother, man. We have the same approach, and I lose my temper with people, and I don't really care because I think what people are hungry for is authenticity, and they're sick of people. They're sick of political correctness, which is a system of self-censorship. And that's how you beat this system: is you use your First Amendment, you say fuck political correctness, and you say authentically what you really think. And I think sincerity will destroy the Jew world order. And so I don't make any attempt to sound like a professional, although I have been on press TV a number of times and have get treated like one. I kind of ride the boundaries, but I definitely don't have any qualms about telling people to fuck off or calling them a fucking Jew or whatever. And I don't care.
I don't, because half of every other picture I post on Facebook is me flipping somebody off. So,
yeah.
You gotta learn to live with it, right?
No, I love it. And for some reason, I think of you're like one of my top soul brothers.
We had a blast last year, man. And
the hell out of
coming down to Austin here. I don't know if I'll be done. Maybe it might be the end of this year because my daughter just moved to New Mexico. Usually once a year I make it out that way. So next time I'm in Texas, you, me, and a couple of my good old boys that I know down there that are listening to the show right now are going to get together. And
yeah, let's tear it up down here. You can stay at my place if you want. Or
I will sleep on your floor, brother.
No, I've got a guest room. A nice guest room. It's the Gilad Atzman suite where he's stayed 3 times when he comes here to hang out with me, and we have a ball. And
is he going to be in the United States for Freedom Palooza?
No, but he was just here about a month ago and stayed with me, and we played in Houston and did an event here in Austin, and I've just learned so much from that guy about. I mean, people complain about the Zionists.
Gentle guy, man, to be called to be referred to in such vehementness, such vile terms as people use against this beautiful, just gentle person.
Yeah, exactly. He's a humanist, and so he, believes in the, universal morality for the human race, just like a Christian, just like a Muslim. And then he gets viciously attacked by these Jews, and it's the same deal with me, really, that we're both just like universal human rights advocates. and that draws us into the direct line of fire of the Jews, because they don't fucking believe that. They don't believe that human beings are all equal, and or that we all deserve equal rights anyway. And
All rights,
it's really,
no rights.
yeah.
Basically, it's all rights or no rights. And you know, if there's one person starving in the world, man, I feel like we're all starving. If there's, you know what I mean? If there's one
Yeah,
person, we're all poor, and it doesn't have to be this way. They talk
it
about,
breaks
you know,
humanity's sense of security
yeah,
when atrocities are being committed and people aren't being punished, and that ruins the world for everybody. And I view that as the fundamental messages of Jesus and Muhammad, and really any person that believes in treating others as they want to be treated. And
no, anything other than the Judaic outlook, which is just riddled with genocide and just displacement and, you know, ruin and revolution
Mhm.
and you know,
Yep.
I mean,
It's really a philosophical battle between universal morality and Judaism, which is moral relativism. So they don't believe that your life is worth anything, and that's where it stands.
yeah, and you know, I've been, I don't know who sent me the link, but for some reason, for the last like week or two, I've been reading a lot of E. Michael Jones stuff,
Oh
and
man,
you know, in a way, I mean, it was like it was a, you know, it was a self protection mechanism,
Girls,
but man, it's just become such an insidious parasite on everything that's just moral. And people will like this call, you know, well, it's, you know, you dirty, evil, murderous European white MFers that go around and destroy everything. But it's really not. It's the actual Jew aspect a lot, you know. It's the predatory lending. It's not the actual, you know what I'm saying? Like I made the point that this whole idea of manifest destiny, that had nothing to do with wanting people to have it was the whole thing was constructed so that we would go out, populate the country, build on it, improve on it, and then they could come in with predatory practices and steal it all away from us without having to work, so they can take two pennies, rub them together, and have three.
they blame all imperialism, British imperialism, American imperialism is all blamed on the evil, filthy white people and their racist
Yeah.
tendencies. But what's never explained is that there's an outer sphere of influence, which is Jewish international high finance, which is behind all of it, all of what's
Right back to
thought
the
of as,
Dutch East India Company.
yes, what's thought of as
Jews were
British.
all sort of forced to, you know, to the Netherlands, and you know they became the most important merchant community on the planet, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They just spread everywhere. This predatory capitalistic invasion of the world, where you go in and you rape the resources and then you sell it back to the natives at a profit. And if they can't, if they don't know they need it, you convince them, and then you loan them money with interest to buy the stuff that you just took from them.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
system that's collapsing. It collapsed when the Romans started. You know, eventually it took hundreds of years, granted, but it's a system that can't sustain itself.
Yeah, it's never been able to sustain itself, and even Jesus predicted that Jerusalem would be destroyed down to the last stone, and I believe like about, was it 57 years later
Yeah,
it happened.
Rome.
Yeah, so exactly. But yeah, what's viewed as British imperialism, and they constantly talk about this, is actually Jewish or Rothschild cabal imperialism, and the Jews have always blamed the white people for everything, and while they make us
They
do their dirty
exploit
work
the, you know,
proxy.
minorities. That's
Oh yeah,
all this left wing charity, ADL, all these left wing, like you're saying, the left, the entire organized criminal cabal is centered around, first of all, you know, blaming all the you know, all their illicit activity on white people in general, and then using the minorities. First, they convince them that it's the whites and that they're being oppressed, and then, if you make some donations to us, we'll help. I mean, dude, it's such an insidious racket like the ADL and the SPLC, where they go around and they convince people that they've been brutalized and that they need to stand up and speak out, and then they make, literally millions of dollars, while, the people on the street that they just convinced are, need more, get less.
And who was behind the slave trade but the Rothschilds
Jews
themselves, the Jews, and then they blame the whites for it, and then they weaponize
even
the
black scholars admit that, because you have to understand what was going on in the the Caribbean. I mean, you know what I mean? Haiti and Jamaica and the islands, which was sugar, and they started bringing slaves. I mean, first the Jews didn't care at first. They sold white slaves in Europe, whoever wanted to buy slaves. But once that moneymaker started coming in, that the sugar, and then rum later. This is all stuff that I kind of I'd read a few things, but this book that I'm reading, I've got this PDF with thousands of pages in it from E. Michael Jones. Is just, I don't know if I'll be able to even read the whole thing.
Yeah, isn't he awesome though?
Yeah, he's a total Latin Catholic.
Yeah, and he's not afraid to talk about some of these issues that are, some of the white or LGBT issues can be considered even more hot button than Jewish topics.
Sure,
you can get more hot water for just, but what he's saying is that this whole all this propaganda about white privilege, which is all created by Jewish Marxists, is complete drivel, and it's designed to make people hate whites and blame them for slavery, when in reality it was a Jewish operation. This is confirmed by Louis Farrakhan's book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, which uses all Jewish historians. So it documents all Jewish historians showing how the slave trade was a totally Jewish operation. Back when it wasn't taboo, slavery wasn't taboo, so what were the Jews doing? Of course, they were bragging about how, great they were at dominating the slave trade, and it's really just totally fucking embarrassing and devastating to them that they can't refute anything in Farrakhan's book because it comes from Jewish historians.
Yeah, they call you an anti-Semite, and then tell you 6 million Jews died in Germany, and then they end the conversation.
You're an anti-Semite just for quoting their own scholars and historians, and I mean, everything that they're doing can be confirmed through their own writings, but Americans, don't read the Talmud or the, Israel National News.
They think that Jews study the Jewish Bible is Genesis through Deuteronomy, and it's like, what are you freaking kidding? Yeah. They don't even believe in God, most of them.
Yeah, 80% of them don't believe in God, yet they think that He gave them Palestine.
No, I know. Trevor, man, it's been such a pleasure to have you on, and you are one of my closest bros now, and I love you and Karina, and I just can't wait to see you guys again in 2 weeks now. And we're gonna hang for. I'll be down there from about the 1st. I'm gonna go down after work on the 1st, and I'm gonna come home that Sunday. So we're definitely gonna get some time to hang out, to fellowship, to testify, to or whatever you want to call it. And
testify.
Well, that's the best thing. All right, thanks, guys. People, we're good people. We're God-fearing people. We're being led by leaders who are godly, who are lawless. All right, don't let them fool you into thinking you're lawless and you don't have to care. They can call it whatever they want, but they can't make it taste.
I'd rather die than be a slave to thee. Don't treat me this way. I'd rather die than